Apologies Committee Secretary.
Chair, I have not received any apologies as yet. I'm assuming other members may have connectivity challenges. I'll keep you posted if I receive an apology through the course of the morning.
Okay. Can we have a move and a second for the adoption of the agenda as tabled?
Mr. Mbiani, Chair.
Honorable Mbiani.
Chair, thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the agenda as reflected. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Malamecha.
Thank you, Chair. I second the mover.
Thank you very much. Our agenda is duly adopted. So the purpose of us meeting here today is to look at the strategic and annual performance plans of the BBBEE Commission for 2023-2024, and then we'll also consider some minutes today in our meeting. Ms. Van Meerlis, I think you are on the platform for the department.
Yes, I am, Chair.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce to you Mr. Commissioner Tadiso Matana. I'm sure many of you know him, but as the Commissioner of the BBBEE Commission, he'll be here with his team to present the APP to the committee. So if I may hand to the Commissioner, Chair, I think he'll run fully from here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Commissioner Matona, you may introduce your team that's on the platform with you and then start the presentation.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm just showing myself for a moment. I will then switch off my camera.
We see you.
For bandwidth.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am joined by a team of my ExCo. Chair, it is Ms. Lindiwe Madonsela, Ms. Tembagazi, as well as Ms. Mwiboni, Mr. Mufiti, Teleki. I think there's also somebody from the ministry who are here with me. Some of them predate me. You may be familiar with them. Chair, we really thank you for the opportunity to present our plans and to get your guidance as usual. May I just establish if I have sharing rights so I can then share my presentation?
Yes, you have sharing rights.
Okay, there we are. You let me know if you see the presentation.
Yes, we see the presentation. If you can just put it on slide mode.
Okay, I'm doing that. Is it on slide mode now?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Chair, I'll go through this presentation very quickly. The presentation deals with the matters that this committee will be familiar with. May I take this opportunity to thank my predecessor. As you know, I've been commissioner for almost approaching eight months now. I work with a team that was put together by my predecessor. I commend her for having established this 6-year-old, I call the commission a 6-year-old baby, with a small team of professionals who are highly expert, and I'm proud to join such a fantastic public servants who are working on something very important for the country. Chair, I am going to allow you to ask you to indulge me to unpack a bit the work of the Commission as framed by the legislation, because that will provide a proper context for when we come to our proposals for the work over the next 12 months. It will be easy to go through those tables at the end of our presentations once we have seen the the context of the work. So I will recall briefly the objectives of the legislation, the mandate and outline of the work of the Commission, some of our procedures, and then go to the outputs that we propose to deliver on over the next 12 months. And as usual, towards the end, we'll deal with the resourcing issues. The BBBEE Commission and the legislation are really there to deal with a fundamental, very important problem in the country, which is a constitutional imperative for equality and redress of past economic injustice against Black people under apartheid. BBBEE is therefore central to the social compact on which South Africa's democracy is based, with a balance between human rights and, of course, the rule of law. The legislation is a tool of the people of South Africa, which was passed by their representatives in Parliament into 2003, and of course in 2013 the legislation was amended in order to deal with some of the issues that have been arising since the legislation has been established, as it were. The Commission itself came into operation in 2016. The objectives are on the screen: to increase the number of Black people that own, manage, and control businesses, to facilitate management and ownership by communities, workers, and cooperatives, which speaks to the broad-based elements of the legislation: human resources, development, management in the occupational levels in the workforce, preferential procurement, as well as investment in enterprises owned by Black people. When you look at these objectives, some of these objectives, there's some progress being achieved, in others not sufficient progress, and clearly there are challenges, as you will see later on in my presentation. Chair. Now I come to the functions as outlined in the legislation. The functions of the Commission, which is to monitor, supervise, promote adherence to the legislation in the interest of the public, strengthen collaboration between the private sector and public sector to further the objectives, receive complaints and initiate investigations thereon, promote advocacy, access to opportunities and educational programs, maintain a register of major BBBEE transactions above the threshold of 25 million, receive and analyze reports by JSE listed entities and public entities, promote good governance and accountability, and increase awareness about the legislation in the public domain. There are two main streams of the work of the Commission. On the left hand of the screen, it's really the compliance report. And I'm not going to talk to everything, but let me just highlight a few of what I consider the most important activities and responsibilities of the Commission, just to promote compliance, receiving the reports, assessing them, giving feedback. Similarly, with major transactions, providing advisories at various levels, practice notes, guides and brochures, and most importantly, education and awareness. There is still a need in the country to empower people, empower entrepreneurs, and empower communities, particularly in rural areas, around the legislation and how it seeks to safeguard their rights, which are rights enshrined in the Constitution. On the right-hand side of the slide, it's to deal with complaints, which is more corrective interventions. Complaints typically to do with fronting, which I'll talk to later. We also conduct site visits for investigations. We make findings and make remedial recommendations. And typically we do find that complaints arise when disputes arise. However, the Commission is available and does promote amicable resolution, what we call alternative dispute resolution, so that we don't have to, for example, refer matters to law enforcement, which is the legislation provides that, you know, once we've made adverse findings and there's no redress forthcoming from respondents, that we refer matters. We also refer to other regulators, for example, the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, which deals with issues related to directors and directors' conduct. May I, as I leave this slide, just say that we talk a lot about good corporate governance in South Africa, and the issue of governance has shot to the top of the national priorities, national discourse. Suffice to say that the compliance with legislation and compliance with BEE in particular is part of good corporate governance. Doing right by what the Constitution says is good corporate governance. We do see that certain legislation, particularly to deal with transformation, encounters challenges of compliance. I've just recently been reading about concerns around employment equity from similar concerns from the Department of Labor. And of course, as you know, BEE does overlap with employment equity. Here are our turnaround times. I call them, these our service delivery standards. They are regulated. We do have to comply with them, and to the best of our ability, despite challenges, resource challenges, we do meet these service delivery standards, and in some cases we exceed them. Sometimes there are challenges in investigations, and typically they are on account of lack of cooperation or response from companies who are involved in their complaints, as it were, the respondents, as we call them. When we talk about BEE, it's important to remember that BEE is not one thing. But actually, inside BEE are 5 things, all of which are very important: ownership, management, skills development, enterprise and supplier development, and socio-economic development. So it is sometimes the tendency, sometimes if one element of this framework doesn't work, the tendency is to condemn everything around BEE. So it's important that when we deal with issues, and there are several issues, challenges around BEE, but that we're measured, and we don't find ourselves inadvertently throwing the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, because even as we are tempted to do so, the reality is that the problem for which BEE as legislation, as an instrument, has been established remains, and we still have a long way to deal with this issue of economic injustice and exclusion in our country. As indicated, both the public sector and the private sector have obligations in terms of complying with the legislation, as well as multinational companies that operate in South Africa, and instances where they can't do ownership deals or equity deals. They do what are called equity equivalents, and some of them have very significant investments in the economy as it were. And typically we find that there's willingness by multinational enterprises to comply with their legislation. They are required by their home countries to always operate within the framework of the laws of the countries in which they operate. And so we do have good cooperation by and large from multinational companies. I just want to deal with some of what lies in these other elements. Sometimes we over-focus on ownership, which is important, but at the expense of taking our eye off the ball on some of what I consider, measures that can create a very solid platform for sustainability of transformation and for sustainability of the objectives of the legislation, which is investment in human capital, investment in people, the codes of good practice to make provisions for companies to invest, and there's some metrics that are at play here: 6% of payroll, for example, or a 15% cap for non-core training, and all of these are based on targets that are in the employment equity legislation for economically active members of the population. On the right is socio-economic development, which is also very important. Many companies are doing this. And Chair, might I add that this is not your traditional classical corporate social investment. This sometimes is, in certain communities, these really alleviate challenging conditions of people, and typically many companies, particularly mining companies, they do very important work around socio-economic development. As you can see, 75% of beneficiaries of socio-economic development have to be Black people in order to comply. Enterprise and supply development support for Black people, also very important, aligns with the other policy programs of the Department for localization. Again, when enterprises are supported in such a way that they are sustainable, then they meet and fulfill the ownership elements of BEE, so that BEE is not just Black people acquiring interest in established, typically white established companies, but Black people can set up their own enterprises and be supported to do that, because they confront several challenges, having historically been excluded and not having access to finance, for example. So this element is critical And as you can see, it targets what are called exempted micro enterprises and qualifying small enterprises who are at least 51% black owned. We did research recently as a commission, and which showed that in the year 2021, companies who have this obligation only spend 46% of their allocated budgets on enterprise and supply development. But the quantums are quite huge. So the aggregate amount is 26 billion rand. Now, if this is deployed effectively, and companies are not just doing tick box exercises, and particularly where they target enterprises that are part of their supply chains, this could be a game changer for the growth of small enterprises in South Africa, which we know are actually the job creators in the economy. On the transactions side, in the past year, we received 50 transactions. The numbers have been kind of variable over the last couple of years, correlating with the changes in the economy, the recessionary conditions in the economy, impact of COVID. All of that do impact BEE activity. The value of those transactions in the previous year was 35.8 billion rand. But you'll see that since the commission has been established 6 years ago, the cumulative total of transactions is 608, and the value is 634 billion rand, as it were. Importantly, we are seeing as a new trend that these transactions do include trusts, which are community-based trusts, employee share ownership schemes, as well as what are called broad-based ownership schemes, at least in 12 of the 41 major transactions. And the value is 24.4 billion rand. However, one needs to qualify this because these transactions are funded by loans, and typically the beneficiaries will only realize value in time as and when the loans get paid. The transactions are funded by a combination of cash, vendor financing, bank loans, asset swaps, as well as sale of assets, as it were. Government funding varies. In the previous year, we didn't see any government funding for transactions, and that reflects the constrained fiscal environment, the challenges of some of the DFIs, being, for example, the National Empowerment Fund, the likes of the IDC. So they do fund, but in some years you find that they haven't really funded significantly. On complaints, in the previous year, we received 114 complaints, 84% of them relating to fronting practices. For example, in instances where a company is said to be 51% Black owned, but actually the Black beneficiaries really don't enjoy either benefits or participate in the running of the company. We also seen some of the trusts which are the dubious trusts where the beneficiaries are unknown. And of course, sometimes we see a misrepresentation of BEE credentials, for example, through dubious or dodgy BEE certificates. since the commission was established, total number of cumulative number of complaints is 1,246. 913 of those have been closed. In other words, either we made findings. In some instances where we don't have findings, we make referrals. And of course, I've spoken to alternative dispute resolutions, or sometimes we find that there's actually no merit in the complaint. I've spoken about clarifications or advisories. The numbers are indicated there. In the last year, we undertook 64 awareness sessions. Since the commission was established, the total number of sessions is 401. And typically, these are, in rural provinces, in communities outside of the metropolis of the economy, which is Gauteng, Cape Town, and Durban. And we've also indicated the number of people reached. Might I say, Chair, that we could do more, and that really, awareness about the legislation should be the responsibility of all of government. The Commission has a critical role to play because we are the custodian of the legislation, of the expertise around the legislation, how it should work. But all of government has to almost amplify the voice and efforts of the Commission. This slide speaks to penalties. Part of the awareness about the legislation has to be the fact that there are penalties for contravention of the legislation, with a provision for a maximum of 10 years imprisonment or a fine. And it's indicated there, how that works. If it's a person, it will be a fine or 10 years. If it's a juristic person, it could be 10% of annual turnover. Those are, if you like, penalties in the legislation. And of course, suffice to say, Chair, that the penalties will apply insofar as the referrals have led to prosecution, successful prosecution. So far, we really haven't had any effective prosecution of those matters that we refer. I've recently engaged with the NPA, and they've indicated that they are currently focused on dealing with state capture matters. In one instance, there was an overlap between the violation through Dodge's certificate, B certificate, and state capture. They do appreciate the importance of addressing fronting. A typical policeman doesn't really have an understanding of fronting. They know fraud, and often they kind of dismiss some of these referrals simply by saying this is fraud. So there's still some way to go to align the law enforcement with the provisions or the penalties that are in the legislation. You do know also that where a company has been found to have broken the law, if it does business with the government, the National Treasury will exclude it from doing business with the state and blacklist it on a National Treasury register for tender defaulters. I now come to the APP, which really outlines the work we will be doing in the next 12 months. Chair, it is more or less the same as the range of activities that I've just outlined. So there will be very little new. We have to keep doing what we have to do as required by the legislation. Suffice to say that we are also a lot more conscious as to how our work supports and fits in with the departmental priorities, the 45 output targets that the minister has presented to this committee. Bearing in mind, Chair, that the outputs of the commission are of a regulatory nature. They are triggered in a particular way in the legislation, typically by way of a requirement to register transactions or to deposit reports or complaints. Of course, we also have the possibility to take proactive actions around advocacy, education, and awareness, and stakeholder engagements, which we do. In relation to the programs of the department, we more directly speak to or support the transformation outcomes that the department has targeted, but there are BBBEE-related matters that arise in various other programs of the department: incentive administration, investment promotion, as spoken about equity equivalence, Black industrialists, where the Commission's advice and support is sought. The tables are here now, Chair, and I'm not going to go through everything. Suffice to say that in this slide, which speaks to the compliance dimensions of our work, the most important things popping up from there, the advisory role of the Commission, the advice we provide on industrialization, BBBEE-related matters in industrialization, investment programs of the department, something that's a priority of the department now called employee share ownership schemes, and any provisions that impact on women, youth, owned enterprises, which are elements included in the BBBEE scorecard. And we indicate some of the service delivery targets that we are setting for ourselves in that regard. Here, in this slide, I've spoken about education and awareness sessions and our targets there. As you can see, we can only set targets to the extent of our capacity, and so we've set ourselves 10. The turnaround on registration of major transactions, very important. This is part of avoiding creating red tape. So we do turn around, the registration very quickly. And once the documents have been appropriately submitted or as required, we will turn around an assessment of a transaction within 90 days. Similarly, when we assess compliance with enterprise and supplier development, skills development, and socioeconomic development, similarly, we turn around those within specified timelines. Here, we're starting to get into the space of investigations, which we are required to finalize within 12 months, and where necessary, we refer, we commit to 50% of findings from investigations being conducted within 12 months upon receipt of a properly filed complaint. I also indicated alternative dispute resolution process of specific cases once we have found them to finalize within 6 months. And then the next slide is the referrals. We intend to refer 100% of relevant cases within 30 days of finalizing our investigations. And at the bottom of this slide is the requirement in the legislation for us to do research, analyze trends, and we produced 2 major reports, one called National Status of Transformation in the Economy, as well as assessment of major transactions, which we produce each in any given year, and so we will produce 2 in the coming year. Next slide is stakeholder relations, which is very important. It's become clear to me that for BBBEE to succeed, we need an effective ecosystem where all of the parts that can oversee, advance, work together. So we continue to focus on that. For example, I've spoken about aligning with the South African Police and National Prosecuting Authority, as well as keeping BBBEE in the news as best we can, to increase awareness of the public about the commission. I'm often intrigued where you have a complaint coming from a rural area, and often we ask, how did you become aware of the commission? And people will say they had something on the radio, or they read an article that there is something like this, and so when you see those complaints, they're correlated with awareness of the legislation by members of the public. Here, these are institutional, if you like, outputs, Chair, which I won't spend too much time about. ICT is critical for effective service delivery, so we have plans to strengthen our ICT infrastructure. My wish is for the Commission over time to become a center of excellence on transformation policy and BBBEE, and to be the employer of choice for young professionals who want to serve the country, as it were. So this speaks to some of those commitments we are making here, particularly to training of our own staff, but training of members of the public. Often BBBEE disputes arise because Black participants are not fully educated about their rights and how rights in a business environment operate. Someone is just made to sign a document. They don't know the purpose of that document, and then it surfaces as something that is used to acquire funding or a bank loan, and so they assume, unawares, they assume a financial obligation. So some basic kind of business education is required, and here we are targeting Black women. This is a priority that the Deputy Minister Gina has encouraged the Commission to look at. And then the outputs, which, as I said, are intended to support the department, the work of the department, and this is basically providing various sorts of advice on BBBEE-related matters in initiatives of the department, in industrial support, in industrial policy, in transformation. I've spoken about the work on employee share ownership schemes, as well as in energy, and in stakeholder initiatives of the department, issues to do with red tape. As I said, we have turnaround times which are regulated. We will endeavor to meet them so we don't add to red tape. And we continuously make sure we pay service providers in time within the provided 30 days. And of course, as I said, when new initiatives like master plans, we are busy now with a master plan that we're supporting, the master plan on the oceans economy. Cross-cutting focus is a gender mainstreaming, where we really are targeting women, and I've spoken about the training on corporate governance, which we propose to do in 8 provinces. We started in Limpopo. Women's Day is coming. We will do a seminar to educate women to promote awareness of women BBBEE legislation, how it works for them. I think in June, for June 16, we will also do something for youth and youth entrepreneurs. We will work with other tiers of government within the context of the district development model. Again, with creating awareness, amplifying our voice, as it were, on the importance of BBBEE and how it actually works. The template for APPs requires us to identify risks, specify what assumptions we're making for some of these things, as well as indicate partnerships. I think the partnership I've spoken to, the assumptions are that we will continue to be supported by the department, and I'm pleased that the TDG and the officials of the department are here, who to deal with the matter of how going forward this function of the country, function of government and the department will be supported. As I indicated, we still kind of in establishment mode, 6 years, so there's a long way to go. Generally in the economy or economy-wide challenges is this non-compliance with legislation, and of course occasionally we do get our findings are contested in the courts. It is something that we need to pay attention to, and at least one thing we must do to preempt that is that our work must be of high quality. Our investigations or assessment of reports has to be of the highest quality and integrity. This is a slide that speaks to the resources. As I said, we get allocated resources by the department and chair. We simply take whatever we are offered by the department, and so these is the allocations for the next 3 years for goods and services, compensation of employees. I am in conversation with the department around how to enhance the capacity of the commission, particularly the hands that are required to do the work. And so it's an ongoing conversation. I'm hopeful that we can find a solution. And I know we can never always have what we wish for, but we can have something that on an incremental basis going forward enhances our capacity. Of course, all of this will be reported as per the requirements on a quarterly basis. Once the APP is approved and adopted, it will translate into performance agreements. In fact, we are in that phase now of doing performance agreements, and I will be engaging with the leadership of the commission so that all of these commitments cascade to all employees, and there is a strong accountability to deliver on the tasks assigned to us by the country. I think this is the last slide of my presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Committee members, now it's over to you to engage with the presentation. I'll take hands. Members.
Chair, while we wait for members to raise their hands, Chair, just 2 apologies, Chair, if I may.
Thank you. Yes.
Ms. Muatsi submitted an apology, as well as Mr. Mulder, Mr. Bergman, and Mr. Monakedi has joined the platform as well, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for updating us. Honorable Thring, then Honorable Malamacha, and then Honorable Dr. Ntwane. In that order, Honorable Thring.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, appreciate the presentation. I think at the outset, just want to indicate that the ACDP understands that restitution is needed to address the wrongs of the past. We are not ignorant. Many of us in fact, most of our members within the ACDP also were victims of the travesty of apartheid in the past. Having said that, my question is from our recent visit to South Korea. One of the things that was done by the government there was to look at upskilling the people of South Korea who were colonized by Japan. Today they compete with Japan. And so they not only upskill them in terms of technical skills, academic skills that were actually needed by the country, but the other aspect was the focus on education. So my question would be, does the Commissioner think that this is certainly one of the ways that we should look at addressing the imbalances of the past? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Thring. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me also follow suit, welcome the presentation, very informative. It is just 2 things one will want to dwell on. Let me, Honorable Chair, appreciate the effort that is done, especially when we consider the fact on the complainants handling and compliance promotions. I think the penalties themselves there, if as they are implemented as they are, it will necessarily deal with many questions that the society out there is having. The fronting matter is covered, and the manner in which the consequence management on that is very clear. I think, Commissioner, we really need to applaud for the good work, because these are the things that people were having problem on them. Then the second one will be the question of the stakeholders there. And the question you mentioned, one, that is your SABS, the SAPS. Now the question is, which other ones are there? Chair, why this question is to say, in many cases, you find that we are having some backlog because the matter is to go from SAPS and being their primary stakeholder. I find that somewhere it has to be referred to the NPA, and it takes long and all the stuff. We are trying to say it must not take long. We need to act rather to talk. We've spoken for too long. People want to see actions. I'm saying, Commissioner, in this case, which are other stakeholders and how interrelated are they, and how fast or how do we normally meet in terms of ensuring that the reported matter doesn't take long in the role? What is needed action than any other thing? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Dr. Ntwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Commissioner Matona and team. I've got 2 questions. The The BEE Commission has previously reported the need to review and amend the current act in relation to one, over-criminalized case, for instance, cases to be referred to the South African Police Services or the NPA, and lengthy and no remedy for prejudice parties. To provide for a dedicated or special tribunal for BEE matters. 3, provision for referral to companies tribunal for quick adjudication, amongst others. So my question to you, Commissioner, is has the DTIC and the BBBEE Commission started the review of the legislation, and what is the status thereof? So that is question 1. My question 2 that I've got is, in April 2023, the Employment Equity Amendment Act was signed into law. Amongst its provisions and amendments is the designated employer definition, which has been changed so that employers that employ fewer than 50 employees, irrespective of their annual turnover, will no longer form part of the designated employer definition and therefore will be exempted from compliance. So it is said that the impact of this will have an absolutely adverse impact on transformation, as companies will not be required to implement measures to ensure suitably qualified people from designated groups. So to have equal employment opportunities and to be represented at all occupational levels in the workplace. So my question to you is, what are the BBBEE Commission's view on these amendments and the impact on transformation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the permission. Chair, let me first also recognize and also welcome the presentation by the BBBEE, our only vehicle to NDR, National Democratic Revolution. Chair, on APP page 26, the Commission reported that they have 30 employees for the financial 2023-24. Vis-a-vis the approved structure of 113 employees. Can we just check what is the impact on the implementing of their mandate? And check also what is the state of the current employees, which possibly filling the gaps of the vacant position. Also, Chair, under program 3, the Commission aims to deal with research, analysis, and also report on the state of transformation. But Chair, there's only 2 performance targets, and those performance targets are the same as the previous year, 2022-23, and no employee on the post, and the posts are vacant on the issue of research and an analysis. What is the view of the DTIC and the Commission, given the fact that critical positions are not filled, and when are the vacant positions going to be filled? Similar to program 2, the implementation and the correctiveness and also the enforcement to achieve compliance. Out of the 25 positions in the compliance, only 3 are filled. So how do we going to manage the compliance while we have heard that 84% of the processes the affronting, and also you can see the 73.5% vacant position in terms of the organogram. So to me, Chair, it's a bit of a challenge. I don't see the BBBEE be able to rise above in dealing with their issues and trying to enforce the compliance and also. Then, therefore, Chair, I will propose that given the BE mandate and that transformation is one of the priorities for the country, I propose that the committee should engage the entity more regular, more robust oversight, so that we are able to see whether the APP targets are in line with the mandate. However, the Commission has other challenges beyond and adverse impact the achievement of this performance. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Can I check with Ms. van Meelis whether she wants to make any comments before I hand over to Commissioner Matona?
Thanks very much, Chairperson. And thanks to the honourable committee members for raising both questions, but also giving some key insights for us to be able to take guidance from what your priorities are and what you want done. We are working with the Commission to review the BE framework currently. What we're also doing in working with the Commission is we're seeing how we can reinforce the work being done in other parts of the department with what the Commission is doing to maximize its impact. The issue was raised around the need to fill critical vacancies in the Commission, and we regard that as a priority. There have been engagements with the Commissioner on filling these positions. We're just all mindful of ensuring that we get the best people in who are able to do what we want, so that when we fill a position, we know that we've got the right person who will be able to implement the act, who will be able to pursue the vision of the government and the Commissioner in doing so. So that work is ongoing, and we're happy to report back to you on the work as you require. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matona.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think honourable members have raised all of those issues that they have raised are critical to the task of transformation in the country. So I want to thank you for the issues that you're raising, because they are spot on, and it's really, Chair, if you ask me going forward, where we should be sharpening our focus, the issue of upskilling our people. There can never be economic empowerment without human capital, a strong human capital base. So it is in the interest of Black economic empowerment that the education system, both basic education and higher education, works well. Because we find that when people are educated, they are more likely to set up enterprises. It's very rare that you find enterprises being set up by people without education. So absolutely, absolutely. So much so that, Chair, we as a commission, when we do alternative dispute resolution, where a company admin skilled and is prepared to do good, we do ask of them to make a contribution, small as it might be, modest as it might be, to the NEFSAS. So we have a partnership with NEFSAS. I just checked with the team how much we have contributed to NEFSAS through this mechanism. And I'm told it's approaching 100 million rand to assist students who have finished their training, but still owe fees. So that is a very useful thing, and we're hoping to expand it, as it were. So I fully endorse that issue of upskilling, which we will push more aggressively. And I said so, Chair, that the skills development and enterprise, we really should press hard on those things, because they are what the foundation of transformation is going to be. We on penalties and fronting and the difficulties we are having with law enforcement, the police and the National Prosecution Authority, Chair, I think that issue is part of a bigger issue in the country around how you deal with economic crime. And we know that typically, generally, we are seeing that economic crime is a big concern now for a variety of reasons, not just from the angle of BEE, but also copper theft, some of the corruption that we're seeing in state-owned enterprises. And really, the law enforcement, they have to take a very holistic view of this and allocate proper capacity. Many years ago, 20 years ago, when I was DG of the Department of Trade and Industry, and copper theft was emerging at the time, and I engaged the intelligence community, law enforcement. At that time, they said to me, frankly, we want to be honest with you, we don't have capacity. But of course, I think with the passage of time, clearly the damage of economic crime to the economy is clear, and so there is responsiveness. We will work with them. As I said, I met with them, and we will escalate this to highest level, the National Police Commissioner, so that we can make sure that this aspect, the penalties work, because when the penalties work, then they have a deterrent effect. We've seen that how the Competition Commission has been successful in that regard. When the teeth they have bite, the market responds appropriately, and now what they do now, they have something which I aspire to: persuasive capital, not just punitive capital. But persuasive capital derived from effective punitive capital, as it were. So we want to be on that path, Chair, and we have to, because otherwise the whole system doesn't really work if all parts of it don't work effectively together. The amendments, that there are clearly a number of areas where the department has, we and the department on its own has identified the need for amendments. And I think the commission is we are a child of legislation. We don't have powers, ability to initiate legislation. We will be guided by the department, but those matters which Honorable Mpwane has referred are very, very important. Again, if you look at the Competition Commission, and I'm going to use them as an example, within the commission they have a mechanism for resolving disputes, so that we don't over-criminalize this space and inadvertently create additional red tape. Because once matters go to the courts, we're not in control of the courts. They take on their own life, and that create enormous uncertainty in the economy. So we have to find ways of making it easy to deal with issues. So the company's tribunal, there is no reason why matters arising from in the company's tribunal, because typically those are matters to do with directors, disputes among directors, for which the company's tribunal is set up. So we don't proliferate tribunals all over the show, use the infrastructure that's available. But of course, it will still be necessary for the Act to empower that kind of direction. So again, it's a very important issue raised by Honorable Ndwani, as well as the issue around exemptions. We haven't quite yet studied on the detail the exemptions or the legislation and what the implications of those exemptions are. My instinct is to be as worried as Honorable Ndwani, but on the other hand, Chair, an exemption in of itself is not a bad thing. Because, for example, when you look at BEE, again, to reduce red tape or avoid unnecessary red tape, we said only transactions of the value of 25 million and above. Anything else doesn't have to be registered and assessed and analyzed by the Commission. But it doesn't mean that what happens in the space doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that what happens in those companies which are exempted from complying, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if the outcomes are of such a nature that they undermine or go against the spirit of what the exemption has been provided for, clearly there will be a need to intervene. I understand that that particular provision and exemption comes from a good space of reducing bureaucracy and red tape in the economy. But we have to be alert to unintended consequences. And so that would be really how the Department of Labor going forward is going to deal with, I think, Chair. So I don't want to pronounce too hard and fast the view because we still have to look at that very, very carefully, because also in the end, the two legislations, because they are related, cannot work at odds with each other. So we will have to straighten out any conflicts that may arise, so that we don't send mixed signals in the economy. Again, a very important matter raised by Honorable Ndwani. The Honorable Mbuyani's concerns are valid. They are really for the department, and DDG Van Mierlis has addressed them. The only thing I can say is that when a function is created by government, it won't help if that function is not enabled through resources. And I think that the truth about this function of the BEE Commission is that it has not yet, at least 6 years down the line, been properly capacitated so that it can be effective. So there is some way to go in that regard. The organogram that Honorable Mbuyani or the establishment that he spoke to is what was approved, previously approved, but is yet to be implemented. And so we're going to be working with the department to see how we, even if we don't fully, because you can't kind of feel that organogram at one go, but you can do so in a phased way, but quite significantly and in tandem with the challenges that are there, the demands on the function, which are already there, because I often say the shop is open and the public is queuing outside for the services of the shop, being the BEE Commission. Otherwise, Chair, it creates all kinds of challenges. Employees are overworked, morale is low, burnout, and those are matters which I would like to surface much more strongly between the Commission and the department, and hopefully we get some way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Ms. Van Meerlen and Commissioner Matona for those responses. I think Honorable Mbuyani said it very well, that we must continue robust and regular oversight over the Commission, because we've heard of your challenges and yet you have such a huge transformative mandate. And we hear about the work that's being done. So I think it would be good for us to see, to oversight and to engage with you more than we have in the past, so that we track how you are managing to deal with those challenges and taking matters forward, given your transformative mandate, which is also the mandate of one of the priorities of our country. So thank you very much to you, Commissioner, and your team. So we will see you more often as this portfolio committee. So with that, I want to thank you very much for even teaching me today. They say you learn until you go into your grave, about persuasive capital versus punitive capital. Thank you very much. Members, we will now have a short break. I think we can just have just a 5-minute body break, and then we'll come back and look at the 6 sets of minutes. So we will reconvene at 10:20. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you on behalf of the Commission and the staff and executives of the Commission for the opportunity and your guidance. And we look forward to hearing from you further in your oversight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
NLC?
Chair, the committee had a briefing by the Department of Trade and Industry on its third quarter financial and non-financial performance, and then also received a briefing by the Minister of South Africa's trade negotiations and trade relations. If we go down. Chair, the introduction is a normal introductory issue. The second point is a briefing by TTC IC on its third quarter financial and non-financial performance. Chair, the report will probably come to the committee next week on the basis of that for consideration, the third quarter report. Then point 3 was the briefing by the Minister. 3.2, the issues raised by the members in relation to that particular briefing, Chair. And then if we go down to point 4, meeting adjourned at 1:06 until the 15th of March. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, members. There we have the minutes of the 14th of March, 2023. Can we have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of our deliberations on the day? Members, Honorable Malamacha.
Thanks, Chair. I stand to confirm that this is the true reflection of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder, Honorable Mbuyani?
Thank you very much, Chair. I second.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next set of minutes?
Chair, the next set of minutes will be the 15th of March, Chair. Just waiting for Margaret to share it. Margaret, this is the 15th of February, it's the 5th of March. Shall I share?
Isn't the date just wrong, Andre? Okay.
Just want to double check, Chair. Chair, can you see the minutes, Chair? So meeting, on 15th of March, we had a briefing by the National Lotteries Commission on its second and third quarter financial and non-financial performance, and we also considered minutes, Chair. Chair, number 1 is its introductory issues.
I think you must just go through apologies so that if any are not recorded, those members can have an opportunity. Okay.
No problem, Chair. Mr. Thring submitted an apology, Chair. We will just make the necessary. There's only one apology, Chair, because remember at the time the ANC didn't have any new members yet appointed to the committee. Chair, then we will proceed. Dr. Patiana and Mrs. Colt proceeded to brief the committee on the second quarter and third quarter financial and non-financial performance. Bullet point 2.2 highlights the issues that were raised by members. We also then considered minutes dated the 21st of February, the 22nd of February, 28th of February, 7th of March, and 8th of March. The committee also resolved that they should consider a meeting with correctional service around the Special Investigating Unit and the NPA regarding the status of investigations and the institution of criminal prosecution in relation to the alleged maladministration and corruption at the NLC. The meeting adjourned at 10:43 until the 29th of March, Chair.
you. There's the minutes for the 15th of March with a recommendation, a resolution. Can we have movers and seconders for the adoption of these minutes?
Mr. Mbuyani, Chair.
Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I propose that we adopt the set minutes as reflected. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Honorable Malamacha is unmuted. Oh, he has raised his hand. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. Stand to second, Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much. The minutes are duly adopted as a true reflection of our deliberations on the 15th of March. Can we have the next set of minutes of the 29th of March?
Correct, Chair. We considered the first draft of the report on the committee's oversight visit to Gauteng and Limpopo, and we also received the status report on preparation with regard to the study visit to South Korea, Chair. We go down. Chair, we had apologies from Mr. Cuthbert, Mr. McPherson, Mr. Thring on the day, Chair. Then bullet 1 is just the introductory matters, and then we proceeded to consider the committee's oversight report, Chair. The ANC submitted concluding remarks for consideration, and the committee went through those concluding remarks. Go down, Margo. There was also recommendations that were submitted, Chair, and then the committee deliberated and made some amendments, which is captured in under 2.4. Then the Secretary provided a status report on preparation regarding the study visit to South Korea. Is captured under 3. And 4, Chair, the committee resolved that it will adopt its oversight report at its next meeting, affording parties an opportunity to engage the respective caucuses on the report. The meeting will be scheduled in the following week for members to receive a final briefing preparation for the study visit to South Korea. The meeting adjourned at 10 until Tuesday. It should be technically until Friday, the 21st of April, Chair. We originally would have scheduled to meet on the 18th, but we made an amendment to that. Thank you, Chair.
Much. I see the amendments are being effected, so I'm putting the minutes for adoption. Can we have a mover and a seconder? Members?
Mr. Malamacha, Chair.
Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to confirm this is the true reflection of the meeting. I therefore suggest we adopt the meeting as they are.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbuyani.
I second the proposal for adoption of the set minutes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's the minutes of the 29th of March that has been adopted by the committee. Next set of minutes.
The next set of minutes, Chair, is the minutes of the 21st of April, where we received a briefing by the Minister and the Department on the strategic and performance plans for 2023-24 financial year. We also considered the second quarter program, Chair. Chair, this is where the new members of the ANC joined the committee. And we had an apology of Mr. Cuthbert for that particular meeting. Chair, bullet 1, just the normal introductory matters. Chair, we then Minister Patel proceeded to brief the committee on this strategic and annual performance plans. Chair, the report has been distributed to all members. We have requested that members submit concluding remarks for consideration. We are scheduled to look at that tomorrow, Chair. And then the committee also considered the second quarter report, and Mr. Magalani took the mid-committee through that report. And thank you. Then the meeting adjourned at 12:49 until Tuesday, the 2nd of May. Thank you, Chair.
you very much, members. There is the minutes of the 21st of April.
Mr.
Honorable
Malamacha.
Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to confirm. I suggest we adopt the minute as they reflect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I second the proposal for the adoption of the said minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minutes of the 21st of April are duly adopted. Next set of minutes.
Chair, the next set of minutes would be the minutes of the 2nd of May. My apologies, Chair. We received a briefing by the South African Bureau of Standards on the strategic and annual performance plans for the 23-24 financial year. Chair, we were joined by the new member of the DA, Mr. Cuthbert, informed us that morning that he is not longer serving on the committee. And you welcome the new member in terms of one. Then briefing on bullet point 2, Dr. Bassoon briefed the committee on the SAB's annual strategic and annual performance plans. Committee 2.2, the issues is highlighted that were raised by the committee. If we go down. The meeting adjourned at 11 o'clock until Wednesday, the 3rd of May.
Thank you very much, members. Can we have movers and seconders for the adoption of those minutes, if you agree that it's a true reflection of our deliberations of the day? Honorable Mbuyani.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I rise to propose that we adopt the said minutes as a true reflection of our engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I stand to second the proposal of the adoption of the said minute.
Thank you very much. Minutes of the 2nd of May duly adopted. Next set of minutes.
Chair, the next set of minutes will be the minutes of the 3rd of May. We received a briefing by the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications on the strategic and annual performance plans for 23-24 financial year. We also formally considered the oversight report of the committee's visit to Gauteng and Limpopo. We go down, Chair. Chair, we had an apology from Mr. McPherson and Mr. Thring on this day, Chair. One is introductory, 2 is the briefing led by Mr. Mamadise, and 2.2 reflects the issues that were raised by the members during the deliberations. We go down. Chair, the committee also formally considered the report of his oversight visit to Gauteng and Limpopo, and the report was moved by Mr. Mbuyani and seconded by Mr. Mulder. The report was adopted. Because the DMM was a new member, he abstained, Chair, and is reflected in the minutes. The meeting adjourned at 11:31 until Tuesday, the 9th of May. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we have a move and a seconder for the adoption of those minutes of the 3rd of May as a true reflection? Honorable Mbuyani.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I propose that we adopt the minutes as the true reflection of our deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chairperson. I second the proposal.
Thank you. The minutes of the 3rd of May are duly adopted. I think that leaves us just with, can I just check the agenda? That leaves us just with the announcements, which we don't formally have on the agenda, but I just want to check if there are any announcements.
Chair, just to remind members that we circulated the draft report on the budget vote, and we requested members submit concluding remarks by the end of business today. We will then capture that, and that will be one of the items on tomorrow's agenda for consideration. And then we'll also get a briefing by the NLC on its 23-24 strategic and annual performance plans, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the business of the day, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.